Kid Cudi said Diddy was like a Marvel supervillain. He got on the stand and told a wild story. December 2011, 5:30 in the morning, Cassie, who he's secretly dating, calls him and says Diddy has found out about us.
Kid Cudi finally showed up in court to testify against Diddy for trying to unalive him, and the details were more disturbing than whatever Cassie told us in her lawsuit. It turns out that not only did Diddy set Cudi's car on fire, but he also tried to unalive his dog and even arrange a whole meetup with him so they can fight over Cassie. But in typical Diddy fashion, he didn't come by himself. He came through with his crew and lots of firearms. Diddy really said if he wasn't able to get rid of Cudi by blowing up his car, then he was gonna open fire on him and make him ooze out till death. Cudi also accused Cassie of playing him and Diddy. He said Cassie was out here lying to him that she was single when the whole time she was still with Diddy and freaking off with him with It was until Diddy tried to take his life that she finally came clean about the fact that she was playing the both of them. Cassie first dragged Kid Cudi into this case back in November 2023 when she name-dropped him in her lawsuit. She said Diddy blew up his car because he found out they were messing around on the low behind his back. She claimed in her lawsuit that Diddy became enraged and told her he was gonna blow up Kid Cudi's car. And just a few days after him making this threat, Cudi's car exploded in his driveway. In the lawsuit, Cassie didn't go too much into detail about this particular situation, but Diddy's former head of security came out to spill all the tea, and now looking back, everything he said matches well with Cudi's testimony in court. According to Roger, Diddy went over to Cudi's house with his goons prior to blowing up his car to jump him, but luckily for Cudi, he wasn't home. However, if Cudi was home, he probably wouldn't have made it out alive because Diddy came through with firearms, which means he didn't just plan to use his hands, he was ready to get active with those weapons too. Roger claims that since Diddy wasn't able to get his hands on Cudi, he took it out on his personal assistant, Capricorn Clark, who he believed knew about Cassie and Cudi's affair but still kept quiet about it. He beat Capricorn up so badly that she ended up filing a lawsuit against him, and he paid her off with over $450,000 to drop the lawsuit and keep her mouth shut.
Particular time I had left and I was still doing security off and on, and I was taking Cassie to her shows and stuff like that. But from what I'm hearing is that she was having an affair with Kid Cudi.
Okay, so she was in the studio with Kid Cudi and they started to actually get romantically involved. Now, from what I understand, Cassie had a phone that she would just leave around sometimes, and Diddy went through her phone.
Yes.
What happens next?
When he went through the phone, he called the number and Kid Cudi picked up. And he was like, what? Yo, I don't know exactly what he said. I know that he went over to his house. And Kid Cudi wasn't there. And he went over to the house. I know at that particular time, after that happened, Cassie wouldn't come around. And then all of a sudden, Cassie came around and Diddy was upset. And he was upset with a young lady called Capricorn. So Capricorn was his personal assistant. She was the KK. If you ever hear people talk about his assistant now called KK, she was his ride or die. She rode around with him everywhere, and he really got upset with her because she had to know about Kid Cudi because she never went to the studio by herself. She always went with Cassie, and he put hands on Capricorn because of that situation. And Capricorn ended up leaving and suing him for it, and he paid Capricorn $450,000 to keep her mouth shut. And to this day, Capricorn has spoken about it. I even heard Suge Knight speak about it on his podcast because Capricorn was also Suge Knight's baby mother, one of her best friends. So she knew everything that was going on. So I guess his baby mother must have spoke to Suge about it, because he had beat he put hands on Capricorn about that. And he put hands on Cassie about that.
Now, as I said, all this sounded a bit too wild for folks to believe at the time, but Cudi recently took to the stand to testify and he confirmed everything. Not only that, there was some more graphic info that Roger left out of his interview. And Cudi didn't hold back from putting it all on blast. In court, Cudi said he met Cassie for the first time back in 2008 after Diddy introduced them, but he didn't start blowing her back out until 2011 when Cassie told him that she and Diddy had broken up. At least that's what he claims Cassie told him. Not too long after this, Diddy found out they were messing around, and of course, he didn't take it well. Cassie called me at 5:30 or 6 a.m. She said Sean Combs had found out about us. She asked me to pick her up, so I did. When he picked her up, he sent her to a hotel, and that's when they reached out to Capricorn Clark, who was an employee of both Diddy and Cudi. So from this, it looks like Diddy's former bodyguard wasn't lying because Cudi just confirmed that Capricorn did in fact know about him and Cassie's affair, and she was kind of Cudi's little personal informant. Cudi said while he was speaking to Capricorn on the phone, Capricorn sounded very scared and upset and was even crying while telling him that Diddy and his goons were already in his house and she was forced to come along with them. Cudi then hung up the phone and gave Diddy a call, and that's when Diddy told him that he was in his house and that he was waiting for him to come home. When Cudi arrived at his house to meet Diddy, Diddy was no longer there. However, he noticed that his security cameras were not working and his gifts from Chanel had also been ripped open. His dog had also been locked up in the bathroom, and this traumatized the hell out of the dog because he's always allowed his dog to roam free. He said even weeks after this incident, his dog was never the same and was on edge all the time. Some people also speculated that Diddy might have potentially SA'd the dog or made one of his people SA the dog. I mean, even though the dog was mostly allowed to roam free, there was still no reason for it to become so on edge and traumatized weeks later just because it was locked up in a bathroom. Unless, of course, something else was done to it that made that whole experience more traumatic for the dog. Cudi said the situation with his dog's declining mental health and the break-in started to bother him days after it happened, and he decided to officially file a police report. However, the report didn't go anywhere, and by January 2012, Diddy was back at it again, except this time he blew up his car in an attempt to end his life. When they showed the images of the damaged car in court, Cudi said, "That's the damage to my Porsche from the Molotov cocktail. It looks like the top of my Porsche was cut open and that's where the Molotov cocktail was put in." Now this is where things get a little messy. During cross-examination, Diddy's attorney Brian Steele asked Cudi if he felt Cassie was playing him and Diddy at the same time, and he said yes. Brian said, "Both of you guys were played, right?" Which Cudi said yes. Brian then asked again, "The person who played you is the same person who played Sean, Miss Ventura, true?" To which Cudi replied, "True." Cudi said at some point he was beginning to fear for both he and Cassie's life. So he met up with Diddy at Soho to talk things over, but Diddy wasn't having it. Diddy just kept accusing him of stealing Cassie when the whole time she was the one telling people she was single. He said after they spoke, Diddy actually acknowledged that he was acting a little crazy and even apologized. However, once he brought up the car explosion and tried to get him to take accountability for it as well, Diddy told him that he didn't know what he was talking about. Cudi was actually willing to let everything go and go back to being friends with Diddy, but Diddy's refusal to take accountability really threw him off, and he pulled back from accepting the apology altogether. And get this, he said when he first walked into the room at Soho, the diddler was standing by the window with his hands behind him like a Marvel supervillain. Anyway, after testifying, Cudi also jumped on Instagram to thank people for supporting him through all of this, and from his demeanor in the video, you could tell that he was just glad that all this was finally over. The man who almost unalived his dog and potentially even SA'd the poor dog was now paying for his crimes, and he got the chance to see him sitting across from him in court with handcuffs.
Hey guys, so I just want to say, man, I've been seeing all the love and support, and I just want to say thank you so much, man. People have been hitting me up the past week, just checking in, and even today, And it really means a lot to me, man. You guys are the best. I love y'all. This is a stressful situation. I'm glad it's behind me. And yeah, I love y'all, man. Big love. Go stream Neverland.
Funny enough, even with everything Diddy did to Cudi, you still have people like Young Thug sitting on the internet and calling him a rat for testifying. Mind you, Cudi never claimed to be street, but they're still trying to force ridiculous street codes on him like he's one of them. Anyway, child, people had their own thoughts, like this person who said, Black people really backwards as F, cause why are y'all calling Kid Cudi a snitch for testifying against Diddy? A man that tried to kill him in the most horrible way by blowing up his car. Another person said, let me get this straight. 1. Diddy broke into Kid Cudi's home. 2. Moved the security cameras. 3. Harmed and caged Cudi's dog. 4. Went through all Cudi's belongings. 5. And blew up his car. And you're still telling us that Cassie was free to leave, a monster capable of doing this? But now I want to know your thoughts. What do you think of Cudi testifying against Diddy in court? And do y'all think Diddy really SA'd his dog? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and don't forget to click here to watch this other messy video.